Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am so happy we could pull this group together in such a last minute fashion. Our staff has spent the last 2 days in a retreat, but I tell you, some of the latest news is at the top of our mind during that. So this town hall, I hope serves a purpose that we can all walk away with a few call to actions and some unity together. So I think we'll go ahead and officially get this meeting started. It looks like we've got about 31 participants thus far, and our speakers seem to all be logged on. So without further ado, I know most of you, but for those who don't, my name is Tara Doyle-Enneking. I am the CEO of the Puyallup-Sumner Chamber of Commerce. Lori Waltier, our Director of Communications, and our Director of Membership Engagement, Sheila Elwell, is here as well. I'm happy to have today Joe Bushnell from the Washington State Hospitality Association as part of the local government affairs. Thank you so much for, again, a last minute ask. We have the tremendous Team 25 that has taken a few rotation of seats, but I'd like to congratulate Senator Chris Gildon, newly elected House Representative Cindy Jacobson, and returning House Representative Kelly Chambers. You're always great allies to us. And again, it's such a last minute ask to make yourself available just before your very busy session we're eternally grateful for. And we also have newly elected Hans Zeiger to Pierce County Council. So again, thank you for being here. I know you're all swinging, doing a lot of swinging on our behalf. So we're going to be anxious to hear some of the efforts that you are putting forth. We also have Krista Linden with Step by Step and Farm 12, speaking on behalf of some of the restaurant community and certainly herself, telling some personal stories of her journey through these last 9 months. We have Brian Reynolds of Anthem Coffee and Sean Broback as well with Crockett's Trackside and Meridian Cafe. We will intend to give everyone an opportunity to speak in more of a town hall dialogue fashion after we get through our speakers. So that'll be a little bit of the layout of today's agenda. I see Mayor Pugh there. Hello, nice to see your face as well. So first of all, I'd like to start off just reminding you, our chamber core purpose, our mission, is to be the champion of business, promoting an economically vibrant and competitive region where community, family, and business prosper. Well, if that isn't a task lately, this seems a bit out of our hands now, and today's forum is an opportunity to explore what we can collectively do about that. Try as we might to help businesses in our community prosper, mandates out of our control continue to restrict any chance of that. Although many businesses and individuals have had their share of hardship the past 9 months, the hospitality industry has taken an unfair brunt of the pain. As we cautiously and optimistically turned the page to a new year with hopes that January 11th would be the beginning of the end of the confines that have placed restaurant owners, event planners, entertainment venues, and others in the hospitality industry in a downward spiral, and for some to a point of no return, they were only met with a slap in the face. Double and triple employment security rates, Governor Inslee's path to nowhere, healthy Washington roadmap to recovery, which now has Pierce County lumped with King Snohomish counties as the central region. We gather today for 3 purposes. First and foremost, to show our support of our businesses, particularly in the hospitality industry. We share your anguish, your frustration. I think it's safe to say enough is enough. It'll be important to stick together to get through this together. And we want you to know we've got your back, and there will be channels for this group to communicate amongst each other so that you know you're not alone. Secondly, we convene to hear what our allies at Washington State Hospitality Association and the county office and our state legislators are doing on our behalf. Let's rephrase that, trying to do on our behalf. And third, we will have a call to action for this group. More on this at the end of our program once we hear updates and reports from our speakers. So let's just go ahead and dive in and get started first with Joe Bushnell of the Washington State Hospitality. Joe?
Good afternoon, Tara and representatives and other on the call here. I really appreciate you having me on. I'm Joe Bushnell, Local Government Affairs for the Washington Hospitality Association. I cover mostly Pierce County and kind of west region outside of Seattle. We have another team separate for that. Julia Gordon is sad she's not able to make it today, as you're all well aware. Session is coming up very quickly, and unfortunately, a scheduling conflict came up, and she's not able to make it. But I will be talking a little bit about some of the plights that our industry has been facing for the last year. It's coming up on a year here real quick when all these mandates came on. And, you know, I'm not going to try and mince any words. It has not been easy. It's been very difficult for the hospitality industry. And people have lost their jobs. People have lost their livelihoods. People have not been able to feed their families because of those lost jobs. And at the same time, because of these forced shutdowns, our ESD rates have gone up. They're asking double, triple, even quadruple rates, ESD rates for unemployment insurance, and that this coming session, that's going to need to be addressed. You know, we didn't ask to be shut down, but we were forced to, and then we had to lay off employees, and that increases our rates. So unemployment insurance relief for the hospitality industry is very significant. And we're working with the governor's office and ESD and Senate leaders on SB 5061. And that doesn't provide significant enough relief to the hospitality industry, but we still need this bill to keep moving. So we're looking for more out of that bill, and we're hoping to see that move forward. And then another issue that's reared its head during this coming session is HB 1069, and that's a bill that the Association of Washington Cities proposed, and that allows for relaxing of rules regarding LTAC funding. For those that aren't aware, LTAC funding is our lodging taxes, and that's money that's generated from room rates that goes back into it's supposed to go back into the hospitality industry to promote more tourism and things of that nature. But the cities are looking for other ways they can grab new revenues, and they're looking at those LTAC funds, and that's literally the last thing that we need done, because we need those funds in order to promote tourism, try to get those outside monies back into our communities, and you're all well aware that the fairgrounds and all of the venues and events that we have in Puyallup and Sumner rely on those monies in order to promote those events, to bring those into our communities. And so we're really opposed to that, and hoping that that it doesn't pass through this legislative session. Again, we're the most economically impacted industry, and we've been very disappointed to see our local electeds advocating to further harm our industry at the highest levels, rather than working on strategies to support our industry and our employees. That bill would take the only limited funding that is statutorily required to support local tourism activities we badly needed to recover. At the state level, we are also working with House and Senate leadership on B&O and property tax relief, and those conversations are ongoing. I'm not aware of any specific bills that are being proposed at the moment, but as soon as we have those, we'll definitely push it out to Tara and get it out to all of you. We're also looking to request $12 million to restart our tourism promotion program, targeting promotion program, and that's a statewide tourism to bring people from out of state. And as this vaccine rolls out, and as people are more comfortable moving around again, and this pandemic winds down, hopefully in the near future, promoting our state and getting people to come to our state through venues, events, all these other great, beautiful mountain, what have you. We're trying to make sure that we're on even footing with other states, because we're competing with 50 other states that have a robust statewide tourism programs, and we have only just restarted ours. Many of you may not be aware, but just a few years ago, we did not have a state-funded tourism program at all. We were, I think, the only state in the union that did not. And so there is huge return on investment for that marketing and promotion of our state and our area. It's a beautiful area. People want to visit here, and we can take advantage of that. I would be remiss to not mention the struggle that many of our hotels have also been going through. We're lucky enough that Pierce County has done better than the national average in terms of room nights. I think partly that has to do with our proximity to JBLM. Other areas have not had that. Like we followed the national average, but have been up maybe about 10 percentage points. Still not great, but better than the national average. But having the proximity of JBLM and still having the military activity and rooms being utilized through that has helped some, but leisure tourism has dropped dramatically. So some hotels have not even opened since last year. Tacoma specifically, the Hotel Murano has been shut down. They have not been operating for the last year because they're purely a leisure destination. And so it's basically bottomed out. There's a lot of event spaces that could be utilized, banquet halls that could be utilized for more events that have the optimal spacing and masking requirements to make sure everyone's safe. And we feel like that maybe the governor and others are not seeing the full potential that our hotels can provide as an outlet for safe meeting and gatherings in these large spaces that we have. And we also see restaurants as a safe outlet for individuals that would like to socialize. People are social creatures and they need an outlet that's safe. Our restaurants are safe. There has been no major outbreaks at any restaurants that we've been aware of that are directly related to the restaurants and dining in. The health department will talk about outbreaks of employees for a certain amount of time in two employees in a certain amount of time is considered an outbreak, and they'll cite that as a source for posing these restrictions on our industry. However, the reality is that there has not been. It's been less than 0.5% have actually got contact traced to having contact within restaurants or having contracted the virus within restaurants from dining in. And we're looking to the health departments to be transparent about that data. And Walla Walla, I believe, has provided that data that shows that none of those contracted viruses came from restaurants. And so that kind of brings me to my final point. 25% that the governor's proposed is basically shut down. Restaurants work on volume. Even before the pandemic, the average restaurant had a 4% profit margin, 4%. And so past that, being shut down and doing takeout only or outside only, and then having a capacity of 25%, you might as well be shut down as well, because 25% just does not cut it. And the way the governor's new Safe Start rollout program, they're not even talking about increasing that at all past 25%, and that just doesn't make sense for our industry. As you guys are aware, the numbers have still continued to increase regardless of all these restrictions that have been placed on our industry. So it's clear that our industry is not causing this issue, and the data has been bearing that out. And so we're looking to hopefully put some pressure on the governor's office and others to follow the science, follow the data, and provide a safe outlet for people to socialize, because they're going home or they're having parties at home, and they're not wearing masks and they're not doing proper social distance protocols because they don't have any other outlet. At least when we go to restaurants, people have to follow the regulations. They have to wear the mask. They have to do the social distancing. Things are sanitized. People are using hand sanitizers. You have a safe outlet for individuals to socialize. And in the home environment, things are not being cleaned as they would be at a restaurant. People are not wearing masks as they would at a restaurant. People are not social distancing as they would at a restaurant. And so we're really, really, really hoping that leadership takes that into account and opens this up quicker and sooner and allows for our population to have this ability to have a safe outlet to gather. People are going to gather. It's what we do. And so we need to find a way to make it safe for them and for our families. In closing, I'll just say that, you know, this has been a really tough time for industry, and I want to really take this back to our employees and our business owners. They have gone through hell for this last year, and am, it breaks my heart to see people's life savings, their retirements, uh, just go down the drain. All their hard work over the years. I've seen restaurants that have been open for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, shut down permanently, and they have nothing left. And it breaks my heart. Uh, it's really tough to hear all the different stories. And then I also there's people out there that have, because of their we have some newer restaurants that have only been open for the last year, and they're still struggling, but they don't meet the requirements for help because it requires like a 25% showing a 25% reduction in revenue. Well, they can't predict. When you start a business, you are creating a business plan, and you have go time, you have bills to pay, you bought your space, you have to open up. So some people have opened up during this pandemic, and now their dream is being shattered because they can't show revenue lost because they weren't open the year prior, but now they are not included in any kind of relief programs. And that's a serious misstep. These people have put their life savings into kind of trying to create it and start a business, and they're just because they're new, they have not been able to access these programs, or many of these programs, because they don't have a history. And so I think they deserve just as much support as some of our long-term industry professionals as well, just to survive through this pandemic, because it's clear that this is not normal times. They were expecting to be able to open up and at least, stay alive, and so that's where I'll end. I'm happy to take any questions, and I'm really hoping you all, just if you can, go to restaurants, and if you can also travel locally, go to Walla Walla, see wine country, go to Spokane, and just visit if you can. I know there's not a lot to do. Go to these hotels and other lodging establishments. Go outside to Mount Rainier, as they're struggling as well. And so that's it for me. Thank you all so much for having me on, and that's it.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you for illustrating so well what we knew to be the truth of the last 5 or 6 weeks. Once we did shut doors, that the COVID rates spiked, and I'm just curious how much of that is being hammered, and messaged to our governor, and how successful your association has been, I guess, recently with anything. Does he consult with your group? I know initially it seemed like more collaboration, but as of lately.
We do have regular contact with the governor's office, and he does listen to what we have to say, and whether he accepts that advice and modifies it, sometimes he does and sometimes he doesn't. He kind of picks and chooses how he wants to follow our advice. There's some in our industry that feel that we are not doing enough. There's some in our industry that feel like we're towing exactly what we need to do. It's a really difficult line, because the moment you start throwing lawsuits around, or you're getting extremely angry, it becomes unproductive, and they just stop listening completely. And so that's not the position we want to be in. We want to be there. We want to be in the room. We want to advocate for our industry as best we can. And we do definitely bring up these concerns to the governor's office and other leadership on a regular basis. We're trying to get our stories in front of them, tell them that people's livelihoods are being shattered. It's a difficult situation.
Well, you articulated it well, Joe, and very heartfelt as well. We appreciate it. We will have a chance to go to questions. I'd like to get through our speakers first. So let's move to Senator Gilden, who is running with a few resolutions, trying to, some we wish had been able to happen earlier, and this will hopefully, if you're successful, will bode well down the line, but they're important. So we'll let Senator Gilden tell us a little bit about that work.
Now, first of all, I'd like to start off by saying thank you to the Puyallup-Sumner Chamber for putting this together, for Joe and the Hospitality Association. All of your work has just been fantastic during this time. And sometimes it seems like that we're swinging the axe a lot, but we're not getting a lot of chips to fly, not getting a lot of action, but I know that they're out there working hard. I think I'd like to start off by saying where we're at legislative, and actually, Councilman Zeiger, you kind of took the lead on this particular bit, the law, the current law. So I don't know if you wanted to take that up and explain it. I'd be glad to defer to you as well.
The emergency powers law?
Yes.
So, yeah, thanks, Chris. So the way the emergency powers law is written is the governor can take two different kinds of actions. He can prohibit activity, which is like the stay-at-home order, and the governor can suspend laws and regulations. The suspension part of it is a result of a bill that I got passed in 2019, and at the same time, we put in a role for the legislature to approve or disapprove those suspensions if they go past 30 days. Many of us have come to the belief that that 30-day requirement should apply to all emergency orders by the governor. And that was the spirit, I think, in which many legislators, frankly, on both sides of the aisle, were asking for a special session of the legislature throughout the past 9 months. That never occurred. The legislature has not met in session since March. And during that time period, many of you, many other constituents that we represent for a variety of reasons have contacted us pleading for a voice in their government, and have not had that through the legislative branch of government, at least not on the major decisions that have been made. So I feel like the legislature has been sidelined during this. That I think is important context to understanding what's happened to some industries that have been at a real disadvantage during this time, because some industries have been better off than others, but those who've really been struggling, we've heard many of those heartbreaking stories. And but now, and I'll turn it back over to you, Chris, but now the legislature is about to meet again. And so this is the turning of a page where hopefully we'll have an opportunity to do some things differently. So back to you, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. That was a good wrap up. So, the governor has two powers. One of them, the legislature has a review after a 30-day initial period. The other one, we don't. So the legislative branch is completely cut out of those decisions. And some of those involve the ones that are affecting you directly, the stay home, the closure of restaurants, and that kind of stuff falls into that we have no review over. So moving forward, we do have legislation that has been written by Senator Linda Wilson in the Senate, and I forget who it is in the House, but there's a companion bill in the House as well that would apply that same legislative oversight after an initial 30 days to all of the governor's emergency powers. So that is a one prong that we're moving forward to try to make sure to correct this for the future. As Councilman Zeiger said, the legislature has not met in months and months and months. We haven't had any say. The legislature has been mute. And there's two ways that the legislature can be called into special session. One of them is the governor can call the legislature into session. And the other is the legislature can call itself into session with a 2/3 vote of all of its members. That's never happened. So I'm sponsoring a constitutional amendment. It's Senate Joint Resolution 8201, and we'll put a link to it so you can look at it in the chat box. And what that does is that adjusts the threshold for the legislature to call itself into session when the governor refuses from 2/3 down to 3/5, which is 60%. So it's still a high bar to meet, which it should be a high bar to meet, But I think in times of crisis, which as the last year has shown, we never can predict all the kinds of crisis that we'll face. The people need a voice in Olympia. And when it's time for the legislature to work, we should be able to get ourselves back down to Olympia and advocate on behalf of all of those who hired us to represent them. And this is not a poke at the governor by any means. This is, I think it benefits a number of things. It allows legislators to do their job. It allows people to have a voice. And I think it's in very good keeping with our system of checks and balances with the legislative branch and the executive branch, because whatever the legislature does in this special session, the governor still maintains veto power, which would then require a 2/3 vote of the legislature to override the veto. So I think it's very much in keeping with our system of checks and balances. There is another bill that's out there that I'd like to just mention, and we'll get a link to that as well so you can see it, and that is Senate Bill 5114. It's a bipartisan bill sponsored by, prime sponsored by Senator Braun. And basically what it says, I'll just read a little bit of it to you here. If I can get to it. It says that the legislature finds that Washingtonians have been patient and vigilant in the long fight against COVID-19 while experiencing severe hardships as a result of limitations on different activities. And then I'll skip down to another paragraph. So it says the legislature intends to, by this act, the legislature determines that businesses, facilities, institutions, and all other places or organizations whose activities would be limited or restricted under the governor's Healthy Washington Roadmap to Recovery Plan, which was announced on January 5th, must be allowed to immediately and safely reopen or resume under the provisions of Phase 2 of the governor's new plan. So I want to get those into your head, and I'm going to get the links out to you so that you can review them, send it out to your networks if you feel so inclined to do so. And there is, whenever you go there to either one of these bills, there's a link that says comment on this bill. And if it's something that you think is good and appropriate and right, comment on it, please. Send it out to your legislators, send it out to the governor, and advocate for it. We will likely call for a vote on that Senate Bill 5114. It's either going to happen the first day of session or the third day of session. And so that's going to happen very, very quickly. But I just wanted to let you know that that's out there. But, you know, all of that being said, I'm just sorry for what you're all going through. And I've got no magic bullet. I've heard from so many of you that have been hurting, and you're just trying to keep your businesses afloat and keep your employees employed. And, you know, while I've got no magic bullet, my heart is with you. And I will certainly be advocating on your behalf and using any bit of influence that I can to help out. So thanks.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Chambers, do you have anything to add to what you're working on and what you're hearing? She'll log back in. So we'll turn to Representative Jacobson. Congratulations. Thank you for being here. I know you'll take your very sort of sane logic, your math, your data, and your drive to speak on behalf of business with you to Olympia. So we're grateful for that.
Yeah, I just, you know, I'm new here. I don't have any words for the theft that has occurred of people's livelihoods, and, you know, the eviction ban going on over a year, and the theft of livelihoods from restaurants and gyms. I will be working hard, and I'm with you. That's all I can really say. So thank you.
It's appreciated. Let's see, County. Oh, Kelly, did you think you have any sound right now, audio? Oh, no, you don't. she is right here. Let's go to County Councilman Zeiker if you have anything to add from your earlier comments.
Well, thanks for putting this together, Tara, and thanks to all of you for what you do in our community, creating jobs, providing services for people, and staying involved in the community. You know, I would say, so the legislative session starts on Monday. This will be my first time in a decade that I haven't been joining that group, but it's going to be a unique experience because it's going to be either all virtual in the case of the House or mostly virtual in the case of the Senate. I would say it's so critical for business owners to be contacting legislators. And so, you know, if you live in a district that's surrounding our 25th district, you've got our attention right now on this call. But particularly if you have other legislators, contact them and let them know that you would like action on the bill that was mentioned, Senate Bill 5114, to bring everything into phase 2 across the state. I think that's the kind of legislation that ought to be taken seriously, and regardless of whether or not that particular legislation has the votes to pass the legislature, it's still critical that people hear from business owners because they need to know that that's the direction that we ought to be moving. Even if we can't go as far as that bill would have us go, the legislature ought to be weighing in and representing constituents on this. As far as the county goes, I'm in my first week on the job at the Pierce County Council, and my district covers Puyallup, Sumner, Fife, part of South Hill, Edgewood, Milton, Southeast Auburn, Town of Pacific, Northeast Tacoma, Dash Point, Browns Point, and part of the Port of Tacoma. I will tell you that one of the really major impacts that the county has been able to have is in the decision making about the spending of the Federal CARES Act dollars that have come down through the county. The county received $158 million and has spent most of that. Actually, has had 141 of that spent so far, and some of that is still being processed, but some of the remainder. As we await federal money that is going to come our way, we want to make sure that we're making decisions about that is favorable to the business community in Pierce County. We also want to make sure that we're providing the supports so that if we can move in a direction of more openness for the restaurant businesses and others that are impacted by the current restrictions, if we can move toward more openness, that we're providing the PPE and the testing and the infrastructure that's necessary for our businesses to sustain that. And so I believe we can put those conditions in place for the state to be able to move in a more open direction. We can support that effort. It's been amazing to me to watch the adaptability and the innovation of our local businesses time and again through all of this. And I don't think that our businesses have gotten the credit that they deserve for the work that they've done in that way. And that's been a real disappointment to me in all of this. So anyway, but the bottom line is the legislative session is starting on Monday. Contact your legislators. When it comes to county stuff, I'll put my my county contact information in the chat box as well, and feel free to contact me anytime. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly, I had just tried calling you if you'd like to be on audio through here. Oh, she thinks she's in.
I think I'm unmuted.
You are now. Yes.
Okay,
perfect.
yay. I just left and started all over again. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Tara. So yeah, I've been listening the whole time. I could hear everything. So sorry I couldn't unmute myself. What to expect for this session? I think, you know, Chris and Hans summed things up. You know, I sort of think back to, you know, the last few months that, you know, we hear a lot of people, you know, give lip service to supporting small business. And, you know, now is the time for action to create some pathways for our businesses to recover. And so I'm on board with that. I'm a small business owner myself. You know, we just got our, you know, unemployment insurance rates for 2021, and, you know, they've tripled. And so I'm always, you know, very sensitive to those issues. But, you know, some of the things that I've heard this week, you know, people are saying, how can we communicate our message? How can we get this out there? And I guess to back up a little bit, sometimes I think I thought this, in the last 2 years going into the legislature, is that it's like the twilight zone, that things that are right are wrong and wrong are right. And it's weird to navigate sometimes. So you look at some of the most recent stories of what's going on in Seattle and, making, felony theft not criminally prosecutable for stealing to feed your family. And then I see these heavy fines being leveraged by, L&I and using the Attorney General's office to go after businesses. It's like, this seems wrong to me that, power is derived from the people, and yet, our small businesses are having to, fight the state coming after them in such a heavy-handed manner, when you all as business owners are trying to feed your families, to employ people so they can in turn pay their rent and mortgages and feed their families. And I don't think it's right to put small businesses in these positions where they're just destitute. It certainly doesn't seem like freedom to me. So Chris mentioned a couple of the bills that are being introduced. I think, on the House side, it was Representative Clippert that has the bill to, that's a complement to Senator Linda Wilson's bill that you had mentioned. I think about the issue of homelessness and where I grew up on Portland Avenue. I just remember always sort of seeing that person with the "will work for food" sign, and I watched that freeway entrance down there, over the last 10 years, how you've now got the whole underpass there by I-5 covered with tents and people openly doing drugs and selling drugs on that corner. And this week I've been thinking about this meeting coming up with this group, and I picture the next people standing on the corner is going to be the restaurant owner, with a sign that says, will sell food, will open my restaurant, owner of fill in the blank, Anthem, Crockett's, will work for food. I want the opportunity to open my business, to take care of my family, and just begging the public for support to come behind you, to shift, the governor's thinking and get him to take a little bit more action that will allow businesses to open back up. Because as we look at the COVID numbers, with the extreme shutdown that we've been going over the last couple of weeks, it hasn't curbed those infection rates. And so I know that the Hospitality Association has just been aggressive and recommending protocol that could be implemented so that you can operate safely. And and I support the recommendations that you've come up with. So that's just a little bit about what I'm thinking, and happy to support these industries any way we can.
Thank you very much. We'll probably turn back to some questions from our representatives when we do talk about the advocacy piece of the best way we can be utilizing our time, and who we should be directing these letters to. So I'd like to first say that today, thank you all for giving us kudos for bringing us together on this town hall, but I would be remiss to say that it was solely our idea. We've been kind of waiting, anxiously hoping, fingers crossed, that we get good news here in January, always in the back of our mind, knowing, if we didn't, it's time to pull together. And so sort of marching in the same pathway is Krista Linden, who reached out to me earlier this week, who she herself was feeling that same sort of pressure to we have to do something, when we have to pull together, if not just to show unity with our restaurants and businesses, so that you do know you're in this together, but also what does advocacy look like in numbers. And so we knew we could use the chamber as a good platform to pull together the appropriate officials to sort of start this march. So I want to thank Krista for that. I also, not to take anything too lightly here, but I was hoping to see you before Christmas. I did have a gift from you at an antique store, Krista. It's your Chevy. I'll give it to you when I see you next. So Krista, let's hear a little bit about what you've been going through and what's on your mind.
Well, thank you for, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for calling this together. I think like Brian and I've been trying to text a lot of business owners that I know through this whole time to encourage them and to also just gain some insight from them. I'm a firstborn, I'm a rule follower. I want to do things right. I want to do things in order. I'm very respectful of authority. And I think after what the governor said as I was listening on the 5th, I felt completely sucker punched. And I feel like he was very patronizing in his presentation. There was nothing put forth, in my opinion, that provided any pathway to easing the burden that these restaurants and the hospitality industry are carrying. So that being said, I'm encouraged about the Senate Bill 5114, especially being presented on the first day of the legislative session. I am not sure if that would even get a vote, if that would pass, but I am very encouraged in it being presented. And I think most of all, I just wanted to, I said, if we can't, and Brian has some ideas that he's going to present to you about, you know, if we're fed up enough, what can we do and how can we move forward if the governor's not going to change? Joe, I have a question for you that I'm wondering if you can answer for me. We are kind of as restaurants accountable to 4 different groups: health department, L&I, liquor board, and this governor's control task force. Which is the authority in those 4? Who is the top final decision maker? I think you would say the governor's office, but between L&I and the liquor board, who makes the who needs the pressure the most, I guess?
So it depends a little bit. Do you guys, I'm assuming you have liquor at your restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, then it would fall under the LCB. In some cases, restaurants that don't have liquor, it would fall under L&I. So sometimes it could be one or the other. But in your case, it would be LCB's main. They're the ones that are going to drop the hammer on you if things go wrong. So hope that answers your question.
All right. Well, Brian, I don't know if you want to speak into any of your ideas, or if any other restaurant owners are at their wits' end, but
yeah, I'd be happy to just jump in here. Thank you, Krista. You know, as you were speaking, I was reminded of a story, and I'm just going to share. Bear with me for a few minutes. I'm a storyteller. I'm going to share from the heart, share a few things. But I was reflecting on back in the day. You know, I grew up playing baseball, and I remember my coach would always be yelling from the sidelines, come on, Brian, fire in the eyes. Got to have some fire in the eyes, man. You know, and I'd be up there at bat. You know, in my first at bat, I was always, I'm gonna knock it out of the park. We're gonna go. But imagine striking out over and over and over and over and over. And that's what I feel like has happened since March. I mean, just the fire in the eyes in real talk is beginning to diminish. I mean, a lot of my friends are on this call and people in the community that I've gotten to know over the 14 years as we've built our family business. And even as I'm looking at my own reflection on the screen, I'm going, man, the fire in the eyes, like, how do you keep the fire alive? It's tough. Like Krista said, just a sucker punch to hear kind of the news where we were really hopeful of restrictions being lifted on the 14th of December. And then when that got pushed to the 4th of January, really hopeful that, man, we could get 25% occupancy again. And then it's been pushed to the 11th, and then everything reformatted with a new phase 1, phase 2 process. But let me take a step back. And I do want to say that I'm thankful. I'm very thankful as I'm sitting here right now that we were able to generate some revenue. We're able to make some sales. We're able to still meet needs in the community, serving coffee and food. And I'm thankful for that. What's been challenging too, and Krista, you know, she reached out to me on Wednesday with an early morning text as I was pacing around in my living room, thinking, you know, what do we do? What's our next plan? How do we pivot? How do we strategize? How do we keep this thing alive, man? Where do we go from here? And so what I know is that isolation is annihilating small businesses. It's annihilating the psyche of the business owner. The entrepreneurial spirit is diminishing. We won't even know the psychological effects or the effects of emotional effects for years, I'm sure, to come from what all this is doing. But in that moment, and I explained it to Krista, I said that text message kind of lifted my head for a moment, and I realized, holy Moses, you know, I'm not alone. I think we felt so alone for so long. We get in our own heads, you know, trying to make ends meet. So I'm very thankful Krista reached out that day. This was just a couple of days ago, because it spurred the thought of, man, maybe there's no plans that we can make as a business community, but at least we can get together as a community and see other faces and realize that we're not alone. You know, I'm thankful for all of you that have joined this call today, to be surrounded by, you know, your wisdom, your insight, to have your support, whatever that might look like moving forward. It just actually is meaningful to know that we're not alone. We've made every adaptation. Every time there's restrictions deployed, you know, I commend every business owner that I've seen that's rolled with the punches. I mean, popping up tents left and right to try to meet requirements. You know, deploying mobile ordering technology or safer ways to acquire things. What's beginning to hit me and make me go a little sideways is, you know, how come that's not the same thing applied to the big box stores? Why are we not letting, you know, 5 to 10 people into a big box store at a time and letting them shop and then leave, and then letting the next 5 or 10 go in? And maybe obviously it's a different world between the hospitality industry and having sit down and dining in, but it's just frustrating. I mean, you know, I've gone down the road of thinking maybe we'll just become Anthem hardware store in coffee and serve coffee on the side. You know, maybe I saw in Tara's office, you got shovels hanging on the wall there. I thought maybe I'll just hang a couple shovels on the wall and put a price tag on them, and put tables and chairs out and put a price tag on them, and let people shop and enjoy. Oh, and if they want to, they can buy a cup of coffee. And if they want to test drive the furniture and chairs, they can do so. I mean, people are lingering and shopping for hours in the Targets and the Walmarts and all that jazz. And I'm just going, it's just very hard to see. You know, we created these businesses to add value and uniqueness and create incredible experiences for our communities. You know, and all of that's kind of been pulled out from under us. And it's waning, just the energy and the passion. I mean, when we're spending all of our time trying to come up with creative solutions to solve these problems and the restrictions that we're facing, it's taking us away from doing what we set out to do, to bless our communities, to build people, to create, you know, to create great livelihoods in the pursuit of happiness. So, you know, again, I'm just thankful that we could have this platform, this moment, to just share maybe a couple stories and share our hearts. Really finding myself at a loss for words these days, and believing that, you know, if maybe our move is to just raise our voices and share our stories and get a little louder. I think we've really complied, and we've made all of the adjustments and changes to follow rules. Krista, I'm also a firstborn, not as much of a rule follower as you. It sounds like. My mom did come to my 2nd grade class one time to find me standing on a table pretending I was surfing in the USA, and that's real talk. I got busted for that. But I'm mostly a rule follower. But I'm just feeling right now at this moment, you know, with not knowing how long it'll take to be able to hit the 4 requirements to get into phase 2. The setbacks are so major. the restrictions are so major that the public is continuing to just be in incredible fear. I mean, to come and frequent our spots, you know, so we can have the tents out, we can have the little dining areas and stuff, but it's still people, it's not enough is what I'm getting at. It's just not enough. Even the financial resource that we're so thankful for, that we've been able to get through grants and through everything that we've applied for, it's just not enough to backfill the gap and the loss that we've incurred over the last year. So I believe that business is inherently good. And I'll end with this story. Last summer, a dear friend of mine, Chris Miller, owner of Bee Kings, he's with his wife on this call, he and Angela, and another dear friend, David Morris, CEO of Delano's Coffee. We just happened to be out on Lake Tapps. Didn't happen to be, I guess we planned to be there, but we were out there enjoying the day and dreaming and talking just about the future of our businesses. And kind of on a whim, we were inspired to purchase a domain name, openforgood.biz. And the idea behind it was that, you know, there may come a time where we need to open for good, where we just need to open because business is inherently good. It adds so much value. Every single business owner that's on this call right now, there's been meaningful moments in every single one of your establishments. Trackside Pizza, Want a Cupcake, you know, Elements Frozen Yogurt. Come on. Those things bring people together. We need more community. People are choosing, you know, to go shopping at Walmarts and Targets and all that jazz. And I know that they can walk into our things and get something quick to go, but that's just not enough. The to-go thing is not enough. So as we sat there, we thought, man, maybe we could utilize that platform, openforgood.biz, to get business owners that would say, yeah, I want to open again. And of course, we'll do it responsibly. And of course, we're cleaner and safer and healthier than we've ever been in our entire lives in the hospitality industry and as businesses. I think there's ways to do that. Obviously, some of the big box stores are open and they're doing it. But man, if we could unite at least as independent business owners and go, I believe that I want to be open for good, not just for the good that business brings to a community, but open for good, never to be restricted again. You know, it might just be the time. So that's where I'm at. That's what I wanted to share. And I'm not sure what kind of calls to action there are right now. I know that, you know, on the drive over here, jumped on a call with Chris, and we've set up, of all things, we've set up a Facebook group just in the meantime. It was too tough to try to build a website in 20 minutes. So there's if you go to, I think, facebook.com/openforgood, you can at least just join in there and be a part of the dialogue, be a part of the conversation, and be in community, most importantly, especially during times like this. Like I said, isolation is annihilating us right now. And so thank you for joining us and leaning in here and being present. So Tara, with that, I'll turn it over to you, unless Krista, you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I just want to know, Joe, from your experience, kind of looking at all these businesses trying to make decisions about how to move forward. I've seen two instances in particular where they've gone to the media and kind of made a stink about it and have had some responses very positively and getting change from L&I in particular. So I don't know if you have any advice from what you have seen, and especially if businesses were to band together and just open, you know, this is being recorded, so I'm not sure if you have to be really careful what you say, but, you know, I mean, I'm just wondering what you would advise.
My advice would be we need to follow the orders that are lawfully given to us, and we need to try and change those things that we do not agree with as best we can. And through the channels like our own, we advocate on your guys' behalf. It's a tough situation to be in, and that's all I can really say for that. I will mention that individuals that decide to do their own thing, it could potentially hurt the industry as a whole. Say, for example, someone was opening up completely and decided to not do any sort of social distancing or no sorts of masks. And next thing you know, you have someone that does contract the virus and it is traced back to that restaurant. Now, do they become liable for that transmission? And at the same time, that kind of puts a bad light on the industry as a whole and for all those that are following the rules and are trying to do the right thing. And so I'll just leave it at that. That's a possibility. I'm not saying that could happen, but it's out there. And that's just an extreme case. But we are doing our best to open safely and operate safely, with the understanding that there is in fact a pandemic happening, but we do need to get people back to work, and we need to open ourselves back up.
Going back real quick, I'll come to your question, House Representative Jacobson. Brian, I wanted to quickly go back to your website and Facebook page. I think as a very start, just to kind of reiterate the chamber, we have talked to Brian about this, and we'll definitely sort of partner with making sure that people are aware there is this avenue to communicate, to try to determine best next steps, to lean on each other. So be sure to, obviously, the Facebook and the website, I just want to assure everyone, we will also have included with our chamber communication from here on out. I think that's a great idea. And we will certainly support what our businesses want to do. I'd also like to have Sean Broback is another business here who, I think we're all experiencing some of the same. I think we're also being faced with, when does it become just not worth it? And like you talk about the fire in your eyes, Brian, Sean, I know you have 3 entities and that are just namesakes out here that are very much a part of our fiber and our flavor. And I gotta imagine for you, it's just getting overwhelming. And I'm sure you have some tough decisions to make. So anything you'd like to share, Sean?
Yeah, thank you. I wasn't planning on speaking to the group today, but I'm motivated by some of you and what I've heard. I'd like to share a few things. I've seen some questions about government agencies and their roles in enforcement and that sort of thing. And in my case, forgive me, I'm angry. So if that comes across to you all, I apologize to that. But the Liquor Control Board, when they come to my businesses, they often have bulletproof vests, guns, badges, padlocks, and threats of fines. When they take away your license, it's very difficult to get back. It's very difficult to get it in the first place. And so putting that at risk is really a problem. The Liquor Board is coming when there's a complaint from the public, sometimes from an employee, but a complaint from the public about maybe procedures not being followed or that sort of thing. And they will show up for that. Labor and Industries has tremendous power. When they come, they make threats as well, and their fines often start at $10,000 is their opener. They can also shut us down, and they come when there's a complaint from an employee and sometimes from the public. The health department really isn't, a law enforcement agency in that way, but they do have some power, and they can put a lot of pressure on us as well. And we're seeing multiple agencies show up or call, not just one. So that's what's happening on the enforcement front. They're also, you should know, they send us, particularly the Liquor Board, they send us emails regularly sharing their enforcement on specific restaurants in specific places, what they've done, the fines that they've levied, and they're sharing that with us proactively. I assume that's to keep us put on notice of what could happen to us if we don't comply. Joe had talked about cases in restaurants, and I'd like to share with you that when we were allowed to be open at some 25 or 50% capacity, we served tens of thousands of people in my businesses. there are 2 cases that were reported to me of positive tests. They were from 2 of my employees. And the reason that those employees reported to us that they were tested was because they had a family member who tested positive. We had those people not come to work and then came back to work safely in 2 to 3 weeks later. I say this because it's true that my restaurants are safer than my local grocery store. We followed the rules, we sanitized, we checked with employees. And when I go to my local grocery store, I'm absolutely offended by what I see because it's clearly not more safe than in my businesses. A couple of other things that I'd like to share, and thanks for your patience, but my companies have foregone over well in excess of $5 million in revenue. And as Joe mentioned, profitability is low in the hospitality business, and that's not my money. That's the money of my employees and other stakeholders in my business who rely on me to make payments to them. So employees who have house payments, who have car payments, who are trying to feed their families, that's their money. It's not mine. Don't feel bad for me. We should feel bad for them. For 150 jobs lost in my small company, many of them will not return. Many of those employees have worked for me for more than 10 years. They're gone and they're not coming back because I have to save the company on behalf of those people that still work there, which means I have to let those other folks go. So however bad we think it is, I will report to you that it's going to be worse, and it is worse. And I just want to put that out there. I don't even know how much money I've spent on compliance and following the rules. I couldn't even begin to tell you. I don't know. It's a lot, tens of thousands of dollars. Employment security, I just got my rate notices from them. They quadrupled my rates. They're essentially asking me to pay for insurance for these instances. So they put on there, even though I've applied for relief of benefit charges in every case, I've followed the rules. They don't answer the phone. Their fax machines often don't work. They send out multiple pieces of paper on one employee and none on another. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And yet they're going to charge me the rates for over $300,000 in payments that they have paid out to employees. I can't pay that, nor will I. And if forced to make those kinds of choices, you can imagine the choice that I might end up making. So thanks for your time. And I want to thank Brian really for sharing. You kind of motivated me to speak, and thank you all for sharing. But yeah, I'm angry. I'm the angry guy, and thanks.
Appreciate that, Sean. Thank you. Chris Miller, you have wrote some dialogue in our chat that I think is worthy of mention too, which just has to do with the kind of bringing home or magnifying the mental impact on these business owners. And so I don't know, I don't mean to call you, on the spot, but if you wouldn't mind sharing some of what you've been writing, I would appreciate it.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate it. A little context too for me. I know you've seen it mentioned. We're running businesses in 2 states now. Never saw that coming. It was a bit of a necessity for us. Our business isn't in the hospitality, but it is in events, farmers markets. We sell honey, do a lot of raw honey sales and all that. And so, we had been looking to other regions. This forced us out of the Washington region this last year. As the months went on, and you started to see no real clear picture to how to get out or how to get to the end zone. You kept seeing it getting kicked further. It was 14 days, just, flatten the curve. And then it was, we all know what we went through, right? We went through continually moving that goal line. Just in my spirit, I had a sense that it was just a pattern that was not being countered very well. There was no opposition voice that was bringing up, well, hang on, as we're moving forward, when does it stop? When is the end of this? Because we can play the what if game, as I mentioned before, forever. And there will be what ifs. There will be There will be impacts on either side of opening up or not opening up. But what I can tell you from the experience in my own life is now trying to manage, 2 locations and balancing that. It's, obviously complicated life. It's trying to make the best decisions you can in a world that is always changing, is very, very, as business owners, very, I guess I won't say it's not what we signed up for, because that's a part of the reality, but not at this level, not when we're being, it feels like, played with politically. So when we start seeing things like the survivability rate of this coming back at very high, 99% plus, when we didn't know that when we all started out, I think I was actually very vocal early on of saying, no, we need to shut it down sooner. Let's get this shut down sooner, because none of us knew what we had at the early stages. We were like, look, let's do it. Let's do what we got to do to get this done with, let's not let this spread. And then as you start seeing the reality of the data coming back a little differently than what we thought, we're just kind of sitting here going, what now? What are we really playing with? What is the game that we're playing? And it feels like, as I see my friends growing more and more angry, more and more depressed, more and more divided against each other for many reasons, I worry about the other what ifs. I worry about the financial impact of the state of Washington ever being able to recover from this without what's the other flip side of this? When you get to the other side and you have all this economic impact, how do you solve that? You have to raise taxes. That's the only way they're going to do it. And where are they going to get it from? The very people that have already bent over and had really a hard last few years. So I don't see a positive outcome from this unless they can turn the ship around towards a positive direction of generating and allowing the good of business to move forward. And like Brian said, business is good. It's inherently good. Doing transactions with each other, helping each other out. That's the very nature of what everybody believes in, right? I'm there to help the community. They're there to help us. Like that's a part of who we are as people. And so when you take that away and you rob that from people and say, you're not allowed to serve everybody you want to, you actually have to now start restricting them and telling them no, and putting you into this position of, I don't know, not trying to serve people less is what it feels like sometimes. It robs you. Like for Brian, it was the fire in his eyes is getting robbed. For us, it's even the ability to find events. There's 0 events running up in Washington. We keep reaching out to the Northwest Women's events or these other things. They keep getting kicked down the road. And so how far do you wait until those open, until you just give up, and say, I'm done, Atlas shrugged, we're done, we're not holding this up anymore. And then Washington has a bigger issue at stake. How does it generate an economy from scratch when everybody's given up? And so I'm worried about that what if game. So we can say what if we stand up, but we can also say what if we don't. If we don't, the trajectory is clear. Right now, the trajectory is more of the same, and more of the same is the moving end zone. And the how soon is running out, you guys. Like there's only so much you can ask from somebody before they're done. And I think you're hearing it here today. I'm hoping you're hearing it here today, and that you will take actions that are very fast, that are very direct and are helpful in the immediate future, not in the, hey, 6 months, 9 months down the road, because I don't think you have 6 or 9 months down the road at this point. And I don't know, the last thing I'll say too is now what I can say from my perspective is we're in a state that's far more open. There are events, there are things going on, not as many as there would normally be, but there are. We're out, we're amongst people, we're doing things. We're all masked up, we're doing things in ways that we can, but it's not restricted to the percentages and the same restrictions that are going on in Washington are not going on in Texas, okay? From that perspective, from an outsider also, as well as an insider, I can say your rate of death has not increased by, but maybe a smidgen. And this is such a much more populous area. So it hasn't, when you say restaurants are open here to basically very well, there's a lot going on. Hospitality is opening here in huge numbers and has been since I've been down here. And so I'm watching all that and putting it in perspective with what's going on up there and going, why is it being unfairly treated to the folks up there when down here, we're not seeing the results that they keep telling us, what if, where they keep telling us, if we do that, we're going to do this, this is going to happen. It doesn't equal in my mind what I'm seeing between here and there. And I guess that's where I'll leave it and just kind of say, think outside of the box. Look wider than Washington. Let's do some comparisons. Let's make things work for you guys and for everybody, because you're that timeline's running out. That's the biggest thing I can say.
Thank you, Chris. You know, the greatest what if, the worst what if has been playing out for me on the porch of my deck, living at Salmon Beach and having 2 jumpers in the last couple of weeks. It's just nothing I want to see. And I just know the despair is just overwhelming. So I do, again, this is sort of the town hall sort of part of it where we are welcoming comments. I apologize. I think I set this up for an hour and I think we intended 90 minutes. Jump off if you must. If there, right now we would like to open up to commentary. Representative Jacobson.
Yeah, just 2 quick things as I heard Brian speak. Thank you. I was thinking about people that are considering opening up, and I was thinking about your insurance that doesn't cover you for any law breaking, so you'd be personally liable. So I mean, it's a ridiculous quandary to be in. And then my other quick question is, because I think that people are they'll be at the ready with lawsuits about COVID, I think. And my other question is, does anyone have any, I'm not sure what happened to Stuffies, because I think that they did do that. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm not sure what happened. I know 2 other companies did that. Spiffies, I think is what it was, or whatever, and then another company, not sure. And I don't even know if I have a response for that right now, but thanks for bringing up those points.
Because there may be some that do need to log off, I guess I would like to quickly share our screen and talk about 2 advocacy points before we kind of bring back to a town hall. So first of all, there have been a series of videos, a series of heartfelt pleas that have been sent in the form of a letter to Jay Inslee. Again, we don't know how effective it was. He certainly came back not with the message we were hoping, but we can't stop. So sort of phase 2 here would be that we are, myself and Lori here at the chamber are asking our businesses in the community, greater community, as many restaurants, as many small businesses as would like to participate as we launch our campaign to Governor Inslee and other appropriate legislatures. I'm asking each of you to, let me share a screen here. I'm asking you to take a picture of yourself or someone, a representative from your business. And I would like, this is kind of going back to by the numbers. We told our stories, maybe he listened, maybe he didn't, but we really want to start writing letters. We want to, tap into our media affiliates and show the by the numbers. So 3 things we're going to ask for you to have on your sheet. We're going to ask what's the number of employees you've lost through layoffs, whatever. What your percentage of loss in revenue is, or dollars, percentage or dollars. And then what's the dollar amount you've spent on PPE or anything you've had to do to adhere to these safeguard restrictions. As many of those as we can get. We're going to do a number of things with them. We want a nice stack that accompanies our letter when it gets sent to the governor's office. We're going to create a montage video with them. But again, this is the channel we're told is the appropriate channel to go. We know thus far it's fallen on deaf ears, but we're going to do as much and anything we can do and not stop doing. So if we could make that call to action right now with everyone on the call that this applies to, and have you email that picture to Lori, Lori, at Puyallup-SumnerChamber.com, and do it today. Do it Monday. We want to get this assembled as quickly as possible. The second piece would be to really target. So there's writing letters to legislatures, but really, I guess if I turned this back to Senator Gildon and Chambers, although I don't like to make this an R, a D kind of a conversation, there really is a barrier to getting this to fly, some of these bills to fly, and partially due to just perceived retaliation of some of those legislatures of going out or standing out against the governor with his aligned party. So the people we really need to be writing these letters to or having frank conversations with are sort of those ones that are kind of on the fence, and obviously those are hard to identify. So I know our approach is we're writing, because we're now in the central district and we're lumped with King County and Snohomish, Pierce County, we will be addressing these letters to all of the Democratic legislatures that are in that region to just try to say, please, listen to these bills that are being presented, particularly with the, emergency orders. But I hope I'm not out of line by calling out that, there's hundreds of letters you could write, but if you're trying to be more targeted, there are some that need to tip and will tip it with a little bit more encouragement, shall we say. Anything you want to add on that, Senator or House Representative Chambers?
Yeah, Tara, this is Kelly. I'll go ahead and just add on to that in case, people just aren't aware of, what's just happened this year, but to sort of illustrate what you're just saying, in the 5th legislative district, you have a Democrat senator, Senator Mark Mullet, who is a small business owner and has often, voted against tax increases and things like that have a significant impact on small businesses. And so during the campaign, because we have the top 2 system, after the primary, there ended up being 2 Democrats in that race, and the governor came out and endorsed Mullet's opponent, making it more difficult for him. So he ended up winning the race by 58 votes. And I think this is he's been around 6 or 8 years. I know that, I'm an NFIB member and Mullet has come to present to us as small business owners through NFIB, but essentially a message was sent to, many of the Democrats that if they are not in line with the governor and his priorities, that he will come for them at election time. And, that's what was done here. And so that's the politics behind the scene is, are there going to be enough people on the other side of the aisle that they're bold enough to come alongside the people they represent and their constituents and their small businesses in their districts and give them the support they need at the time that they need it. But that was just one of the things that happened this year behind the scenes, or not so behind the scenes. It's not a secret.
So, and then I'll just caveat on that a little bit is Senator Mullet is also a co-sponsor of that Senate Bill 5114 that I mentioned earlier. So I think, obviously there are certain Democratic legislators who are sympathetic. Not all of them by any stretch, not all of them. But there's a lot of them that have been sitting back saying that we support small business, we support the hospitality industry, and well, let's bring up Senate Bill 5114 and take a vote on it Monday or Wednesday, whichever day we're able to get it on the floor, and let's put your money where your mouth is. Let's see. So in the chat box, I just sent up some links to the Senate Democrats and the House Democrats, so you can get all of their contact information there. If you would like, in order to reach out to them, and I invite you to do so. But
I got a question for Joe. Are there, a lot of times, in these conversations, we're talking about the big box stores being open and the restaurants and hospitality not being able to be open. But has there been any kind of, not mergers, but alliances formed with some of those grocers or the retail stores where, and the reason I asked this is I was talking to the beer industry this week, and they said, normally we're not always on the same page as the restaurants, but they said, we're willing to come together because we realize that they're an important part of our community fabric, and we want to see those bars and restaurants be saved. So we're willing to come alongside them and advocate for, opening up, or, allowing them to have, loosened restrictions, so that they can continue to operate and not go away. So I was just wondering if you've had any, headway with partnering with some of those other industries that they may not always be out there advocating for you, but would time to say, enough's enough. These guys are important to keep around as well.
Yes, thank you for that question, Representative Chambers. There is a grocers association. I can't recall the exact name. I think it's the Washington Association of
Food
Grocers.
Industry Association.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Something along those lines. And we have partnered with them in the past on some things that we align on. I know that they face their own challenges as well. Even though they are open, they still have other restrictions and things that they have to focus on. So we haven't really, as far as I'm aware, worked together too much lately. I couldn't tell you more beyond that. Our leadership kind of would be developing those relationships if that was the case.
Okay. And I just wanted to say, I loved the video that you put together before, that had Brian in it, Krista in it. That was impactful. I think the guy in the video that said, he'd always been able to pay his rent, and this is like the first time that he's facing not being able to pay his rent, and he got choked up a little bit. It was powerful, and I just would love to see more of that. I think we may all be in social media, but the broader public is not always in social media. So I'm trying to think of ways to capture those in, like you're working on, Tara, with sending the photo in, holding the sign of the impact on your business. But, I would say, or suggest, throw it out there, maybe that gets launched in a public way all at the same time, and get all those hospitality members standing out on the busiest street corner in their town, holding that sign at rush hour, so that people driving by see and are that they may not be on social media and looking for this kind of stuff. Maybe on a Saturday, and get some media attention on that, because we've seen, a few of the media stories. I think Brandy Cruz, kind of, I think, included Farm 12 on that, where the stuff that doesn't make sense about the doors opening up and the cross ventilation and such, just isn't in the spirit of the restrictions aren't in the spirit of what we want to see happen. But I'm just trying to think of ways to have very public kind of launching of that messaging that you're trying to do.
Yeah, and I think a way to kind of organize that probably is to kind of piggyback off of what Brian has started here. I've just shared screen with the Open for Good Facebook site. So I do encourage everyone to go to that site, join the group, and yeah, we can kind of keep rattling these ideas off together, and hopefully have some scheduled, more scheduled forums like this, and just sort of determine, for you, what you feel is the best decision and the best way to advocate on behalf of yourself. And I love that idea of some live protesting, right? We're allowed to do that.
Well, a non-violent protest, they're perfectly acceptable.
Perfectly acceptable. So yeah, feel free, everyone, at this point, again, use this time. If there's particular questions you have of one another, or just a story you want to share, just jump in. I don't necessarily need to moderate.
Tara, if you would stop screen sharing, we could see each other maybe.
Joe, do you have any advice for us moving forward? You kind of have a bigger picture of this whole thing.
So if you're not aware, the government, the U.S. Congress passed a federal relief bill a couple of days ago, and the rules came out on the 6th from the SBA regarding PPP. And so check out your channels and look for that information. I got something from the National Restaurant Association I'll forward it to Tara. It's got a lot of helpful information for hospitality specifically. And then maybe she can send that to everybody in the group. But look for that information. My advice is when that stuff comes out, utilize it quickly and get you all your ducks in a row to try and get that relief.
Councilman Zeiger, I see you just posted something that looks worthy of bringing to attention to the group.
Yeah, I shared, there was some mention of Senator Mullet and kind of the dynamic of the Democratic majority in the legislature. I did want to call attention to this letter that was signed by a group of Democrats in the Senate back in mid-November, where they called on the governor to lift the restriction on the total restriction on indoor dining and to have, you know, less extreme measures. And so I think there can be some bipartisan support for more openness within the restaurant sector. But I think it's going to be just critical that folks keep contacting legislators and sharing personal stories. And just a quick comment on that, you know, I think there are often opportunities to send, you know, automated type messages to legislators. I would say to the extent that you can have a personal connection with a legislator to share your story, that is so valuable. I think this has been a really valuable forum to hear your stories and to hear kind of just the heartbreak that you're going through in all of this. And you know, the lawmakers who are now going to be convening, who have not been meeting in session since March of last year, need to be hearing those stories.
So I did put that PDF in the chat that I got from the National Restaurants Association today regarding those new rules, and it's specific to restaurants. So I didn't mean to cut off whoever that was.
Yeah. Thank you.
I have two things that I would like to share. The first one being that I echo the sentiment of everybody that has spoken today. Thank you so much for being courageous enough to speak up, especially when it's not easy. And you're talking about, you know, the fact that we feel like we're being backed into a wall, into a corner. And there's only two ways out of that. You either run or you fight. And when you're blocked off at every corner, there's only one option. And I feel like that's where we are right now, just as a community. So that brings up my second point, and maybe this is just my own lack of understanding, but government kind of works its way from local to federal. And how are we able to come together as a local government and see change, right? So like, I'm thinking intercessory. Puyallup as a city intercedes for the county, and then the county intercedes for its cities, all the way up the chain, right? How do we utilize our local government to make some serious changes? Those are my two thoughts right now.
Any suggestions, Mayor Pugh?
Things back on, sorry. I guess that's exactly why I was listening in today. We've typically been at the low end of the, I guess, political chain on these type of things. And, you know, it's frustrating. And you see the frustration with our representatives and senators, probably more frustrating from a local level. But I've been copying down these links and stuff. And you know, the city of Sumner, we have our own lobbyist. We have our ability to weigh in on these things. And I think at a certain point, there's that obligation to do so, you know, to check in with our council members to figure out where they're coming from. But, you know, I'm willing to weigh in. And I think it has to be a collective effort, as you all been saying. The more voices that are heard, but especially yours, the better. So yeah, I think it's a good thought. You know, I've sent, when at the whole start of this thing, when they were talking about the restrictions, both Neil Johnson and I had sent a letter in to the governor regarding some of the restrictions, and felt that there's some disparate treatment to various businesses. And I think, you know, now's sort of the same time, or the time to do the same thing. So anyway, that's a probably longer answer than you needed, but that's where I'm coming from.
I appreciate that. I think my frustration comes in, you know, as a small business owner, I can't be everywhere. And so having a very organized way to communicate our frustrations, you know, when we're doing long hours and lost employees and all of that. Anyway, I appreciate it. Thank you.
I would love to just do a quick round robin of who's on the phone. I know this has some very familiar chamber faces, but we definitely did outreach to the broader community, and some of our restaurant tours asked others to join. Could we just do a really quick round robin? I'll call your name and just perhaps say who you are and where your company is from. So on my top screen, we know Kelly Chambers and Brian Reynolds, Cindy Jacobs, and Gildon. We know Joe Bushnell, Chris Miller, we got to hear from you, Chris DeLinden. So Pat Johnson, kind of know you, but why don't you introduce yourself to the group?
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Patrick Johnson. I'm the managing director of S3 Consultants. It's a health and safety consulting firm. I'm actually out of Bonnie Lake, but I've been doing quite a bit of work helping out some of the restaurant industry within the local area, within Sumner and Puyallup area, and been providing some health and safety guidance for them.
Great. Thanks for being here. Next on my screen, it says C. Ron P.
This is Ron Perry from Perry's Cocktail Bar. I think my wife's on here as well. So, as you know, we had to shut down. We just couldn't afford to keep the doors open. The outside seating is not conducive to our type of business, and just doesn't work. So we're trying to hang on the best we can. Pretty emotional about this. Not sure what's going to happen, but thanks.
Well, you already had your knocks just trying to get open, so this is, yeah, a terrible blow. I'd like to ask about your other ham. Are those businesses still open? Are those?
Yeah, we were able to extend 1 year into COVID.
Okay. I'm sorry. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We have Senator Zeiger. We've heard from Sean Broback. Judy from. Want to introduce yourself to the group?
I'm Judy Brown. I own Tacoma Trophy over in Lakewood.
Thank you. And George Pasadillas?
Hi. Let me see. I own El Lago restaurant in Lake Tapps and Island Lodge restaurant on Tapps Island. We also own Verrazano's in Federal Way and the Cliff House in Browns Point. And thanks for being here. Two of our restaurants were able to stay open. The ones in Lake Tapps, Verrazano's and the Cliff House have not been, I mean, it's just not conducive to be able to stay open. So, you know, we're weathering the storm and see what happens. But I mean, this is incredibly discouraging. I was just approached recently by the liquor board telling me that one of the areas, the club room that I use at Tapps Island, we have garage doors that open. They're saying that we can't utilize that. So I'm working on getting tents to cover the rest of my patio. But yeah, it's like, you know, you make a huge investments over and over trying to make this work, and then they keep getting squashed. So it's pretty frustrating. Hopefully we can move forward, but it just feels like he set the bar so high that, I mean, I don't even feel like we'll be open till by July. When you lump us with King County and Snohomish County and set guidelines, multiple guidelines that are unattainable, it feels purposefully. It feels like there's a purpose that is not. It has nothing to do with a disease that has such a high, or I should say, such a high survival rate, rather than what they said in the beginning. So I was all for it in the beginning, closing this down, to get it under control and to flatten the curve. And, you know, we did that. And then the goalpost keeps moving. So again, yes, I'm frustrated, and I really feel for, just like the gentleman said earlier, that's, you know, the $2.5 million that we've lost this year is not my money. That is my employees' money. That's actually money that goes back to the state. That's the community's money. And so, yeah, it is really frustrating. And then we put on top of that, we have the unemployment tax or insurance that is quadrupled. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So I don't know how we can have our voices heard properly, but I'm certainly here to try to fight with the rest of you guys. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Sheilah's here from your neck of the woods too, so she
We love Sheila.
We all love Sheila.
Miss you, Sheila.
You too. All these relationships that can't happen. I know. Hang in there. Hang in there. Hang in there. I know it's kind of, we all close, and then what? We all open, and then what? Or we all become hardware / convenience store / add another business license to the mix. Oof.
Yeah, I just turned my whole bar at El Lago is now a wine shop. So come on in and get some wine.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so Robert, we heard from you. I don't know if you got a chance to introduce your business.
Yeah, I'm Robert. I own Elements downtown Puyallup. Purchased the business from Mr. Reynolds over there in 2019.
Yes, we did. Okay, Mayor Pugh, we've heard from Tracy. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Tracy Pidge, and I'm actually a board member for the Chamber of Commerce for quite some time. So I want to thank you all for sharing your stories today. I hope that you feel that our chamber has been a conduit to help navigate some change. I mean, that's our goal, is to do that. So Tara, thank you for putting this together, and Krista and everybody that shared their stories. Very heartfelt. And I hope that we as a chamber can help make a difference in the community with your businesses. And I've attended many of your businesses. Wonderful. And it's just disheartening for me to hear these stories. So I wish you all the best. And I hope, again, the chamber can really be a conduit for each and every one of you.
Thanks, Tracy. Kim Straight.
Hi, I am the general manager at the Holiday Inn Express in Sumner, and I'm just really grateful for this group. One thing that I get most frustrated with is the hospitality industry, restaurants and hotels, are way cleaner than those big box stores. I'm fighting breast cancer, so I'm autoimmune, and I come to work every day knowing I'm safe. And I haven't been to a grocery store in months. And so I really appreciate we're trying to communicate out there how clean we are. We are sanitizing. We are wiping down. We use hospital grade cleaners. And it's ridiculous, in my opinion, how we can't be open, that we can't welcome people in a cleaner environment that they may have in their car. And so I just am really grateful that everyone's talking, because I think isolation is going to be a detriment to our hospital, our industry, if we don't talk. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Appreciate it. The other half of Seattle, Ron Perry. Laura, welcome.
Shared.
Hi, Laura.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
And yes.
Yeah, Ron has expressed how we're feeling right now. Just feel so vulnerable and defeated right now. But I thank you guys for allowing us to join this meeting today and to have a platform to share. Yeah, no, I'll end it there.
Thank you. Jim Romano.
Hey everyone, I'm Jim Romano. I'm co-owner of Want a Cupcake here in Puyallup with my wife, Carrie. Yeah, there's nothing I can say that hasn't already been said by everybody on this group. I think we're all like-minded, but all in different situations. Certainly Alago with 4 locations and all full service and liquor and all of that is certainly a different situation than we are in here, but we are open. You know, we do have seating, but I don't rely mainly on indoor seating to remain open. Being a bakery, most people take it to go. So we do have that upside, but it's still, you know, it still impacts you because like everybody on this call, you all have plans and everybody's got that, as Brian said, fire in the eye and plans of what you wanted to do. We had another location, you know, in the works and an LOI in hand and so on and so forth. And we put the brakes on everything because of COVID, and everybody's kind of in a wait and see. So we are here, we are open and you know, available to, you know, not just for food, but for an ear and to listen. The one thing I will say that helped us out when this first happened is we did stay connected. I do know how easy it is in situations like this when you get scared to pull back. And then when you pull back, you get isolated. And sometimes you put your head in the sand because you don't want to hear the noise. And when you don't want to hear the noise, you miss information. So, you know, we stayed very connected to the owners of Anthem. And Janie and I were texting every day. What'd you hear about PPP? What was the deadline for the ERTC? And by staying connected like that, you know, we were able to help each other, you know, get resources, whether it was a government loan like a PPP or hey, did you apply for this grant? No, I didn't hear about that grant, and so on and so forth. So what's my point? My point is calls like this are invaluable. And, you know, you can hear the emotion in Laura's voice when she says, you know, she's scared, is don't pull back, you know, even if it's a one-on-one call. You know, how many times have I texted Brian Reynolds when I just said, hey, Brian, thinking of you guys today. And that's it. And he would say, you know, thinking of you guys too. And that was it. And that's enough to get through another day. So, you know, I'm not out here screaming, doom and gloom. I'm saying, you know, we're all in this together and the targets keep moving, whether it's a COVID target to reopen or whether it's a loan. I mean, you know, PPP last year, they said, if you got the PPP, you couldn't get the retention tax credit. And that's a lot of money we couldn't get. Well, now they changed the rule and you can go back and get it retroactively. And that's 5 figures for a lot of businesses. It may make a difference. But if you're so busy and so emotional and so scared, you don't hear that, you may miss it. So you may not hear it from social media or hear it from the news, but you might hear it from somebody else on this call. So that's my only thing is just, and I say it because I'm the guy who pulls back. And I'm the guy who likes to, you know, sometimes just go into the cave and rethink it. I've connected with Brian on this topic of, you know, you got to pull back and re-strategize before you come out again. And sometimes that's good, but a lot of times it's not. So there's a lot of stuff out there changing every day. My only thing is stay connected. Come on down, I'll buy you a cup of coffee, give you a cupcake to sweeten the day or something. And you know, and let's just, you know, stay connected, because that's the only way to get through it. And I don't want to sound cliche by saying this too shall end, but we all know it will, but we just got to hang on until it does. So that's it. Sorry for the soapbox.
No, Jim, valid words and so appreciated. Thank you. We have Kurt on the line.
Thanks, Tara. Kurt Jimis, Dad. I work for Absher Construction here out of Puyallup. I'm also on the chamber board along with Tracy there, and I appreciate everybody jumping on this call and follow up to the last bit of information there that was shared. Is as we lean and work with each other, I encourage everybody to lean on the chamber and Tara and her team to get the help or the contact information for those that are struggling as well. I feel very fortunate for the industry that I'm in, listening to all you, and blessed that we are able to continue to work and having the opportunity to spend time and talk to some of the small business owners in the community. It's frustrating to hear what is going on, and when there are industries out there that are able to manage to work, and I'm in the construction industry and we've been working since March. And we put the protocols in place, and then we were trusted and empowered to put the right protocols in place to manage the safety for our employees coming onto our job sites. And we've got hundreds of people coming onto our job sites. And the fact that there isn't any trust or understanding or realization to let an industry move forward on putting the right things in place, I think is a travesty at the end of the day. It didn't let the industry work to managing itself in a safe practice versus imploding it with mandates that don't add up or have any true data or science behind it. It's nonsense. Let the industry move forward in the safe practices that they know need to be put in place and monitor it as such. And if it can't manage itself in those practices, then do something. But this is backwards. And something needs to change immediately associated with it. So as the one gentleman was saying, we don't keep going in the wrong direction only to have to dig deeper into our pockets to support one another to come out of it. That won't solve anything either. So again, a little bit of a soapbox, but I would encourage everybody when needed to lean on the chamber. Tara and her team are doing fantastic work to bring these type of things together so we can talk. But as we move into this new legislative session, speak loud. That's what I would encourage.
Thank you, Kurt. Jan.
Good afternoon, Jan Mock with Communities and Schools of Puyallup. And although we are not in the same industry as a nonprofit, so many of our families are. So I appreciate y'all getting together and sharing with each other so that maybe we can get some change to take place.
Thank you, Jan. Lana Hoover.
Good afternoon. I'm just happy to listen in and thank you. So thanks for this meeting. Great information, Tara.
Yeah, Lana. Thanks for always tuning in. Michelle, nice to see you.
Hello there. I'm Michelle Strom, and I own Strom Media, which is an focused on paid advertising here in East Puyallup. And in fact, I will announce that I've brought on a partner, and that's happening here in the next week. And so we will become Strom and Nelson. So working in the paid advertising space has certainly been a challenge as well. We work with a couple of different restaurants. We work with Mama Stortini's. We also work with the Harmon Group, so Eric Powers in Tacoma, and everybody has been impacted. And I have been literally in tears as well, listening to your stories. And I thank you so much for sharing. I think the first thing to say is none of us are alone. Nobody is alone. Everybody's going through this together. The other thing I will say is one of the other clients that we work with is a degreed immunologist. And he has echoed some of the things that have been said today, which are restaurants, the sanitation that goes on within a restaurant and the rules and the distancing and all of that. You are far better off being in a restaurant than you are having, a neighbor come over for a glass of wine. So I am right there with you. As a media company, I will do anything that I can to help the group collectively. So any of you restaurant owners that have a quick question, you are welcome to reach out to me and I will support you in any way that I can. And let's hope this comes to an end soon.
Thank you. Brooke?
Sorry, Tara, did you say Brooke?
I did. Hi, Brooke.
Okay. Hi, I'm Brooke Stegmeyer from New Canvas Advising. And this is a sad day, sad meeting. I feel so bad for everyone. So thank you for sharing your stories, and I'm happy to be here, but just hoping for better days.
Yeah. Kyle.
Hello there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi Kyle.
I'm Kyle Hardke. I own Amazing Landscape Services, and I serve on the board of directors for the Puyallup-Sumner Chamber. Just so grateful to have this group together that is kind of helping to message and march in the right direction of about opening up restaurants and businesses in our community, because it is so vital. I'm in the truck, so if you hear my windshield wipers, I apologize for that. But I also want to say that I think it's important. The picture that Tara's asked everybody to take a picture of themselves or someone from their organization and share is so important and so vital. I feel like folks in the government and the bureaucratic world and really the general public don't understand or don't feel the burn, and they don't know what a burden this is to small businesses and how big the impact is. I think that there's this sentiment that we're all business owners and so we're rich and we can take this hit, and that's couldn't be further from the truth. From what George and what Sean has said about how that money isn't ours, it's theirs. It's our teams, it's our communities, it's our all of that is so important to share that message and get that out there. That and how we can do that, I don't know all the answers, but I think that's a good start. And I think the more we can get that message out, the better off, and the sooner, hopefully the sooner we can get over this and get through it. So thank you all for being a part of this, and I appreciate everybody getting together to share.
I appreciate your words, Kyle. Thank you. Deanie?
Hello there, can you hear me?
I can. Hi, Deanie.
Hello there. I've listened in off and on as much as I could. I work at the school district, and they were gracious enough to allow me that time, but then I had to make a drive for another appointment. So I've been listening as I could, and I'm so, again, grateful. I heard bits and pieces of Jim Romano, but he speaks the truth when he says without us giving each other information back and forth, I think we would have missed a lot of opportunities. And we needed each other for morale and as cheerleaders, and I'm very inspired. I'm reignited again. I think there's fire in my eyes now, just knowing that we're gonna rally. We're gonna rally. And I don't know what's coming, but we're gonna rally.
Thank you, Janie. A couple of things before we close. I was contacted by a reporter, I think from South Sound Business Journal, that indicated that although Puget Sound Business Journal, thank you, Lori, that although Puyallup is the number 29th largest city in Washington State, Puyallup received and was able to tap into more dollars and had more applications processed, number 15. And so in her research was really looking at and what roles did our city and chambers play in communicating. So I'm going to say we were swinging, we've never swung so hard. And so if you are holed up, we'll try to find you. But do please know that has been our number one mission. It's 100% what we pivoted to is the messaging. And I've heard you loud and clear that this kind of forum is valuable. And I'm asking Brian Reynolds if I can kind of piggyback on the Open for Good and just make some Open for Good town halls. So sort of as an extension of the join the group, we'll make sure that we, the chamber, do our part to help facilitate some of the group discussions. So most of you, we have your email address. If some of you can go ahead, if you're not sure if we do, just type it into the chat right now. Regardless, if you join the group, we'll make sure we're piggybacking with Brian on that. But I think there's a lot of next steps. I hope that first next step is to get your picture to us immediately. Lori will be crafting a letter. Joe was kind enough to send a lot of bullet points that are stuff that your associations are using. So if you feel like you don't know where to start with a letter, we will help you. We will, provide some sort of pseudo templates that you can help use to write your own letters. But do get us the pictures, join the group, and write the letters. Those are the 3 call to actions right now. And I cannot express my gratitude for the group to open up all that you shared with us today. You can read the numbers. I can have phone calls here and there, but really this collective opening of your hearts will be with me forever. So thank you so much. And with that, we'll close. Thank you all. Joe, thank you so much for being here and our panelists. Really appreciate it. Excellent information.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tara and everybody.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Tara.
Thank you. Krista, thank you.